So today we'll see how to insert rows and columns in a sheet, multiple rows, single rows and columns. Okay, and other few more VBA programs will be seeing simple one. I'll insert a module. Okay, I'll rename it as insert delete. Let's give only insert. Say rows, columns. I'll rename it this way. And yes. So now, so first of all, you need to decide where exactly you need to insert rows and columns. Again, to see the change, you need to have some data or have some color cells colored so that you will know where exactly the rows have been added, rows or columns. So even now, I can add another row or a column, but you will not be able to make any difference, make out any difference here. For that reason, I'll add some data here. I'll just say minus. Now, suppose I want to add a single row, insert a single row. So we need to provide the address where exactly it has to be inserted. Now you can choose any cell over here in the VBA macros. So you can provide any cell address. So suppose I want to insert at the 5th row, let's say, you can mention any cell address within the 5th row. It could be A5, B5, L5 because this entire column is common to all the this entire row is common to all the columns over here. Okay, so we'll see how exactly it works now. Let's go here. See, this is a macro to insert a single row. Say sub insert row. So I want to insert at exactly at 8th row. Let's say I'll mention the sheet address. In the range, I'll provide one of the cell addresses in the 8th row. Anything could be okay. I'll just say insert at C8 dot. So here I should mention entire row. There is a property named entire row. So you need to select this. Because you can also insert few cells as well. Insert or delete few cells. We are trying to insert an entire new row over there. That is the reason I need to specify this. See, what you specify here will matter. Okay, if you mention entire row, row will be inserted in the same place. If you mention entire column, column at cth column, see C, that is the third column, in that place column will be inserted if you just mention entire column over here. So which property you use here, whether it is entire row or entire column, that will decide what has to be inserted. After you mention entire row, you will just give dot insert. Insert is a method here. We are trying to insert a single row at the 8th row in sheet 1. Now let me execute it. I'll run this macro. Let us see. See, at 8th row, a new row has been added. Now, suppose I want to insert a single column. Just copy paste this and change this to single column. Let me change the macro name as well. And over here, I'll just change the property to entire column. Rest of them is same. See, sheet 1, range of C8. I want to insert at the 3rd column and I'll give entire column dot insert. So let us run this one. Now if I run this, you can check at the 3rd column, a new column has been inserted. Now let's see The same thing, how it's going to work for multiple columns and multiple rows. So I'll just make a copy of the same. Here, instead of single row, I'll just say multiple rows. And here, I'll mention it as rows. So let's choose another set of rows here. I want to insert at from 13th to 20th. So I want to insert rows at 13th row to 20th row at that position. I'll just change the address to C13 to C20, and rest of them is same, entire row dot insert. So whichever row numbers you mention here, in those row numbers you can see that new rows will be inserted. Now let me run this. See, from 13th row to 20th row, we see new rows have been inserted. Now let's check for columns as well. I'll just make another copy of this. See here, insert multiple columns. And I'll change here the macro name to columns. And over here, I'll change the address and the other property. See, I want to insert columns from, let's say, G to K. I'll say G1 to K1. Whatever might be the row number, that doesn't make any sense here because we are concentrating on inserting columns. So I'll mention entire column and just say dot insert. Now let us run this. We'll execute this program. Now let's check. See, from G to K, new columns have been inserted. Okay. Now, how to delete it? We saw how to insert. So let's see how to delete as well. I'll take another module to it. So I'll rename this module as delete rows and columns. Now, see, for rows and columns, so you can see here, we are going to write a macro to delete rows, a single row, to delete a row. Again, sub delete row is the macro name I provide. And here we need to provide the cell address, sheet 1, range of. See, wherever I inserted, I would like to delete from the same. 8th row, I would like to delete this row now. I would like to delete 8th row. I'll just mention B8. Any column would be fine here. The row number is important. I'll give 8th row, B column. Just say entire row again. And dot delete. Instead of insert, if you mention delete, the rows will be deleted. But you should use this with a caution. Okay, so the reason is if you delete, you cannot undo it. So whatever action you perform using VBA cannot be undone. The only way to get back your data, if you have, by mistake deleted some important information, the only way to get it back is closing your file without saving it. So when you do that, even your macros will be gone, but that's fine, but you will get back your data. So whenever you're inserting or deleting, let's say, it's very important to see or thoroughly check before you do that because it cannot be undone. So keeping this in mind, now let's execute this. You can see 8th row. So there was a blank row here. It is deleted. Now the data has moved above. Now let's see how to delete multiple rows. Multiple rows. So I'll just change the macro name to rows here. Now let's change the address to 13 to 20. That's where, okay, 12th row to 19th row. So this has changed because you remember we deleted this 8th row. So the cells just moved above. So all the data has moved above one row. So I need to choose 12th row to 19th row. I need to delete those blank rows. I'll just say B12 to B20, and rest all is same. You mention the range, you should mention entire row dot delete. And when you execute this, you can see all those blank rows have been deleted now. Next, single column. How to delete single column? I want to delete the C column here. I'll just say macro to delete a column, and I'll start sub delete column here. I'll name the macro as del column, and we'll mention the address here. See range, I'll give C7. Some address is fine. Here the column will matter, so any row number you mention, it will still work fine because you will be using entire column here. Just say dot delete. Now when you execute this, I'll press F5 to execute it. You can see C column has been deleted. Now let's see how to delete multiple columns. So from F to J, I would like to delete it. So again, the same, I'll just create a copy of this. Okay, delete multiple columns. Now over here, again, the address that you provide is going to matter. So from F to J, we have to delete. I'll just mention F1 to J1, and rest all the same. Entire column dot delete. I'll just execute this. Yeah, you need to change the macro name. Sorry about that. So now when you run it, you see these columns which were inserted by the previous macros, we have deleted the same. Okay. So you saw how to delete entire row, entire column, again inserting it as well. Any doubts here, Rajesh? Okay. So let me show you also how to insert and delete cells. So I'll show you that here. Insert and delete cells. I'll rename the module like that. So now let's start. Macro to insert cell or cells. Anything is fine. It's all the same. Okay, single cell or multiple cells. Let me show you. So it is all the same again. You are just going to mention the range of it. So I'll just say sub insert cells. And again, you mention the address of the cells that needs to be inserted. So here we are being specific about the cells. See, I want to insert at this range. Now when I insert only in the range that I specify, only the cells, so it will ask me to move the existing data either towards the right side or push it down. So you need to give that option. So whether you want to move the data right side or push it down in order to accommodate new cells in that place. Now let me show you here. I want to insert cells at 6, 7, 8, 9. So in G column. So G6 to G9, I want to insert cells. I'll just say insert. See here, we are not going to use entire row or entire column. I'll just mention insert. And for this, see, you get to see shift, copy origin. So you get to see copy origin is going to copy the format. We don't require that. Let's give shift. So shift towards down. Let's say I want to shift the cells downwards when I insert new cells. You need to mention Excel down here. Okay. So let me execute this and let's check the output. See, new cells have been inserted and the data is pushed down. You can see that here. The data that was there, it's not going to take the data from here and put it down. It is just going to move the cells over here to this place. And rest of them, see, this entire thing will move down. That's how it is. So it was previously over here. Now when we inserted new cells, it just pushed it down like this. So you can also see how to push it towards the right. I'll just change this to down. Okay, macro to insert cells by shifting cells down. Now I can also shift the cells towards the right side and just create a copy of this. By shifting cells right, I'll just change the macro name to right here. And see, when you are giving a right, so you need to use Excel to right. So for up and down, you just use Excel down or Excel up. But for right or left, you need to use this to as well, Excel to right. While inserting, you only have these two directions, either push it down or push it towards the right side. Only these two options are available to us. So I can show you the same in Excel also. See, I'll select something. If I try to insert, so just go to home here. You can, in the groups, cells group, you have insert. If I choose insert cells, it has this shift cells right, shift cells down, entire column, entire row. So you need to choose this. We saw how to use entire column, entire row. But right now we are working on this shift cells right, shift cells down. Now I want to shift the cells towards the right side, and the address that I would like to give is, let's say, from J15 to J20. I would like to choose this range of cells. I'll just go here. Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, screen is visible.
The output? Okay. So let me show you this now. I'll make a copy of this, paste it here. To here. Oh yeah, we have already done this. I'll just change this to J15 to J20. J15 to J20. And let me run this. To check the result, go back to Excel. See, you have the cells pushed towards the right side. Now if I have to delete it again, just go back. I'll make a copy of this. Say delete cells. Macro to delete cells by shifting cells up. So you have an option up and left here. For deleting, the opposite directions. So I'll just change this up, and here we'll change this. So we'll say delete and say Excel up. So if I run it, you can see here currently there are blank spaces. I'm trying to delete the same cells where we inserted. You see the difference. I'll run it. You can see those cells which were pushed down just pulled back again to the same area. Now over here, I'll say delete these cells and shift the cells towards the left hand side. And just create a copy of this. Here I'll say shift cells to left. And I'll change the macro name as well. Here I need to change it to Excel to left. Now when we run this, okay, so it deleted these cells. We had to change the range of cells to J5 to J20, J15 to J20. So over here, you just have to say J15 to J20. Now let us run this. You see the change. So it has deleted these cells. So now let's see how to hide and unhide rows and columns. I'll insert another module here and just go and say hide rows and columns. See, to hide it, again we need to use this. I'll just give the description macro to hide a single row again, single row. Sub hide a row. Now let's go here. Which are the rows that you want to hide? You have to mention the address. So it is something similar to this inserting and deleting, but you are going to set the property of this hidden. Hidden is a property used here. Now suppose I want to hide these rows from 4th row to 9th row. I want to hide it. I'll just mention the address like this. Sheet 1 range of, let's say, again you can mention any cell address, but the row numbers that you mention will be important. Suppose I'll take column G, I'll say G4 to G9. I want to hide the rows. So in order to do that, you say dot entire row. So what you mentioned here, that part of the cell will be hidden, either rows or column that you mentioned. Let's say dot hidden. See, hidden is a property here and it has got two values. One is true and the other is false. If you set the hidden property to true, it will hide. If you set it to false, it will unhide. As simple as that. I'll just set the property to true and I'll execute this. I'll execute this now. You can see rows from 4 to 9 have been hidden. They are not visible. Only the other rows are visible to us. So you can see here, just scroll it. So you don't get to see from 4th row to 9th row. Now suppose I want to hide from column F to H. Let's see how to, okay, single row I thought. Anyways, it's all the same. So if you mention only G4, then only that row will be hidden. So I displayed multiple rows here. Anyways, it is all the same, guys. Multiple rows. Same thing with the single row as well. I'll just show you that also. Sorry, I just confused you. So you just use hide a single row. Now if I say G12, only that row has to be hidden for me. I'll mention this. If I run it, you can check 12th row has been hidden here. Only the 12th row has been hidden. So same thing applies to multiple columns and even single column for that matter. Just create a copy of this. Now let's change this to column. I'll give column here. And see, let us take G column only. I'll just change this property to entire column here. Now if I run this, column G would be hidden. You can check. Column G would be hidden. Now suppose for multiple columns, again you need to mention the address involving multiple columns. So I'll just create a copy of the same. So over here, let's see how to hide multiple columns. So you need to mention the address in that manner. I'll just choose from J to L. I'll say from J3 to L3. Row number is fine. You can choose any row number. So I'll just change the macro name to hide columns. So now if I run this, you can check from J to L column, the columns have been hidden. So this is the way you actually hide rows and columns, single row or multiple row, single column or multiple column. If I have to unhide it, now let me insert another module. I'll just make a copy of the same, copy this. Only this part, let's say. I'll insert another module. So over here, I'll rename it. Say unhide rows columns. Now let's start with this. How to unhide a single row. See the same row that we hid. I want to unhide it. You can just go here, set this to false. That's it. You just set this to false. If you run this, you can see here the 12th row is visible now. So we wrote a macro to hide it. Now we again wrote a macro to unhide. Now in the similar manner, I would like to unhide from 4th row to 9th row. Just go here, I'll make a copy of this. See to unhide multiple rows. So there are many simple macros like this. So there are still few more left. So after we are done with these simple macros, I'll be teaching you some important topics like data types, variables, and those things. So that you will be able to work on few more complex topics. So here I'll change this. You look at this, I'll change the address to G4 to G9. So those are the row numbers which we want to unhide. So let me run this now. You can see from 4th row to 9th row, it is visible now. So it was previously hidden. Now we have written a macro to unhide it. It's done. So let's unhide a single column. And over here, see the G column is hidden currently. I want to unhide it. I'll just change this property entire row to entire column. And if I execute it, see the hidden property needs to be set to false. So only then it is going to work for us. So hidden property, if you set it to false, it's going to unhide. And just be wary about this property, because only this is going to manage. So it has to be hidden or which has to be visible to us. So let me run this. See, G column is visible now. Again, from J to L, I have hidden. I want to unhide those columns now. Just make a copy of this. So I'll change this comment to multiple columns. Here I'll say columns. So let's change the address here. Say J1 to L1. Any cell address is fine as long as it is referring to the columns that you want. Row number is fine. Okay. So now let's run this. You can see these three columns are visible now. So they were hidden previously. We have made it visible. So these are the programs that you have to know. So how to hide the rows and columns, single row and multiple row, and unhide it as well. Okay. So I'll insert another module here. Right click, insert another module. So I'll rename, let's say sheets, just mod sheets like this. So what are the various things that you can do with sheets? So I'll just show you that. So let's see how to insert a sheet or add a sheet in Excel. How to add a single sheet first of all. So macro to add a sheet. So there are many ways in which you can add a sheet. I'll show you that as well. So sub add sheet. You just have to mention sheets.add. This is the code for it. So very simple, just say sheets.add. So whichever is the active sheet currently, so just so anywhere it just gets added. Let me run this. You can see here another sheet appears in the Project Explorer as well. You can go back to Excel window and check. It just added before the sheet one. Now, suppose I am going to say you add after the active sheet. Active sheet, the one which is selected currently, the one which is active right now. I want to add a sheet right after that. So you have some parameters to use here. I'll just show you that. Macro to add a sheet after active sheet. So add, I'll just say active here. So here you can give a space or open a bracket. So brackets are used only when you are trying to provide it as an input to some other function or value. So just give a space. So you have these parameters: before, after, count, type, and these things. We'll be using after parameter directly. See, I'm not using before here. You could also use that in that case, but I am trying to add a sheet after an active sheet. So I have to use the after parameter over here, skipping this before. So I'll just mention the parameter name after, say equal to. Now I'll set the value to it. I'll just say active sheet. So if I mention active sheet here, it will consider the sheet that you have kept selected in the Excel window. Now if I run this, you can see right next to the active sheet, there is a new sheet added. So we had kept the sheet one selected. Right after this, a new sheet is added. So there are other ways as well. You can use a sheet name or sheet index also for the same. So let me show you that. Macro to add a sheet after, let's say, using sheet name. I want to provide the name of the sheet. So name is something that is available here. Okay, we are going to use the Excel name. I can just make a copy of this. Okay, I want to add a sheet, let's say before this particular sheet. I use a name here. I copy this name. I'm going to use it right here and just say name. I'll change the macro name here. So instead of using after, just remove this and just say sheets of the name of the sheet that we copied, close bracket. See, it will be added before sheet 3 now. Okay, and let's say I have kept the sheet 3 somewhere in the end. Let's see whether it's going to add before this. And run this. You can see it is added before this, before sheet 3. If I mention after, it will insert after this. Okay, let's see that also. I'll just say after this sheet 3. If I run this, you can see it has added after sheet 3 now. Previously it added before sheet 3, now it is adding after sheet 3. So you can use this by sheet name as well, and also you could go by sheet index. So let me show you that as well. So using sheet index, now over here, so instead of sheet 3, I'll remove the name. So sheet index is the order of your sheets is going to matter here. Which is coming in the first place? Sheet 1. So now suppose let's say I kept sheet 4 over here. So this will be our first sheet. I want to add a new sheet after third sheet, let's say. So it could be any name. We are not bothered about the name. We are looking at the position of a sheet and we are adding a sheet right after that. So I want to add a sheet after the third sheet, let's say. After sheets of 3. See, if I mention 3, it means third sheet. Now if I run this, ambiguous name, just change it. I'm sorry, I forget this. I'll run it. You can see here, right after the third sheet, we have a new sheet added. So you can use these different methods to add a sheet. So in a specified position, using active sheet or name of the sheet or sheet index. Okay, so you can also see that we can add multiple sheets. So let me show you that as well. Macro to add multiple sheets. So here you're just going to add another parameter here. You'll just mention count. So I want to add, let's say after the fourth sheet, that is sheet 6. I'll just remove it. I'm using index here. You could be using anything. I'll just say after fourth sheet, I need to add 2 sheets. So you could mention more than this as well. Let's add 3 sheets then. I'll change the name, add sheets. If I run this, you can see 4 sheets have been added after sheet 6. 9, 8, 7. So till here, you can see the new sheets have been added. So no, not 4. What is it? 3 sheets. So we have 9, 8, and 7. Now suppose I want to add sheets always at the end of all the existing sheets. Always, whenever I add it, I want to add it at the end. So in that case, I'll just say macro to add sheets at the end. Now let's go here. Suppose I'll say sub add sheet or sheets at the end. So you can either add a single sheet or multiple sheets. It's left to you. But let's say sheets dot add, and you will say after. Again, you have to mention this after. And here you are going to use sheets of in place of index. See, you can always take the sheet index to get the count. See, here, whichever is the last sheet. So how do I know which is the last sheet? I can always go by the index. So we have so many sheets here. If I count all the sheets, so whichever is the last sheet, so I'll get that number of that sheet. So I want to add it after that. Sheets dot count. I want to add a single sheet after the last sheet that we have. So here after sheet 5, I want to see another sheet added. So let me run this. You can see after sheet 5, a new sheet is added. So these are the things, and you can also rename the sheet. I'll show you that. Macro to rename the sheet. So again, you can use any of these methods, rename a sheet by its name, currently used name, or active sheet, or let's say by index. You can choose any of these three methods to rename it. Okay, I'll just show you by the index. So I'll just say sub rename sheet. So you can rename only one sheet at a time. You just have to mention sheet name. So sheets, or just say the name of the sheet. Suppose I want to change the name of the active sheet over here. I could just start off like this: active sheet dot name is equal to, so whatever the name that you want to provide, you just say my new sheet. I want to rename it this way. Now if I run this, you can see the 10th sheet is renamed as my new sheet. You can rename one at a time. Okay, one sheet at a time. So though you can add multiple sheets, but you can rename it one at a time. So again, in place of active sheet, you could mention the existing sheet name by providing this, or sheet index. See, existing sheet name, you will use this method, or sheet index, you will use this method. This is sheets of 3 dot name is equal to any name that you want to provide. So you can use the other methods as well. Now let me quickly show you how to hide the set the visibility of a sheet. So there are three ways in which you can set the visibility of a sheet. Now let me show you in the properties here. If you choose any sheet, you will be able to see its visibility over here. So visible property, there is a property for every sheet, visible. So there are three states. One, it is visible, other it is hidden, the other it is very hidden. Now hiding, you will be able to just right click on it and hide the sheet. It will be hidden. Again, to unhide, you'll just right click, you will unhide, it will be available here, you'll say okay. it will be unhidden. Suppose you don't want another user to unhide the sheet from the Excel interface. So from here, if you don't want any person to unhide that sheet, you can set its property to very hidden so that it is not possible for them to unhide it from here. But if they know the macros, they would. But again, you have an option to protect your macros with a password. So these things are available. Now let me show you all three states of it. Say macro to hide sheet. Again, you can hide a sheet by its name, active sheet, or sheet index. So you can use any of these three methods. I'll just go here. I'll mention I want to hide sheet 2 by its name. So I'll start off with the macro sub hide sheet. I'll use, so let me make it visible to you. See here, sheets of, I'll mention the sheet name, sheet 2, close bracket, dot. So you need to choose the visible property is equal to, okay. So you can go by this and just say Excel hidden, sheet hidden. So when I run this, you will be able to see that sheet 2 is hidden. So you could also use the code name here. You can directly mention sheet 2. Sheet 2 is the code name. I can also use sheet 2 directly over here. So even this also works. Fine. So macro to very hide. So as I said, so very hidden. So if I want to just mention very hide is when you don't want someone to unhide it from the Excel interface. So I'll just change it here. Very hide sheet. So I'll change the sheet name over here. I want to very hide sheet 6. So I'll just say Excel sheet. See, the advantage of using the code name is you will get IntelliSense like this. You will not get the same when you use the Excel name. See, I mentioned sheet 6 in the code name. So now you can see here, you will get this Excel IntelliSense. So you will be able to use it. So if you are using Excel name, you will have to mention all these things by yourself. So now let me very hide it. I'll run this. So let's see if we can unhide it from the Excel interface. So let's right click, unhide. You will see only sheet 2 here. You don't get to see sheet 6 because it is very hidden. Okay. Now let me go back. Now I want to unhide the sheets that we have taken. So again, you can unhide them one at a time. Okay, I'll just go back. Unhide means I want to make it visible. I'll just say macro to make a sheet visible or unhide the sheets. It's all the same. I'll just say sub sheet visible. I'll just set this. So let me show it as a separate macro. Yeah. So which sheet do you want to make it visible? See, if you set the property to an already visible sheet, no change happens. It is already visible, it will stay like that. Now let's use it on sheet 6. Because it is very hidden, I am unable to unhide it from the Excel interface. But from here we can do. So just say sheet 6 dot visible property. I want to set it to sheet visible, Excel sheet visible. Now if I execute this, You can see sheet 6 is visible now. Okay. So these are the things. We saw how to add it. Yeah, I missed on deleting the sheets. So let us take another macro for just deleting the sheets. You can mention again by the name, this Excel name, or by index. You can use any of these methods to delete it. I'll just say macro to delete a sheet. So just say sub delete sheet here. So you mention any sheet that you want to delete. Suppose I want to delete sheet 10. Dot, you just have to say delete. That's it. So you mention I have mentioned the code name here. You could use Excel name, sheet index, uh, any of these. I'll just run it. So it will give you this warning message. It is asking you to choose delete. Only if you agree to it, the sheet will be deleted. Because again, deleting the sheets through a macro, again, you will not be able to get it back. Otherwise, even in Excel, if you delete it, you will not get it back. Only way to get it back is to close your file without saving it. So that's the only way. See, now it is deleted. We don't have sheet 10. You can see that in the Project Explorer as well. Sheet 10 is deleted now. Is it clear, Rajesh?
Yes,
Okay, I'll stop the session here for the day. You just practice all these that we have done. Okay, we'll continue from tomorrow. Okay.
okay.
Yes, Rajesh.
And